Guy Madison, Hollywood's golden cowboy and the secrets he had to hide to the public. Guy Madison was the very image of mid-century masculinity, handsome, clean-cut, stoic in the saddle, and gentle at heart. But behind the poster boy smile and the cowboy hat lay a life far more complex, more guarded, and far more daring than any of his screen performances ever let on. He was born Robert Ozell Mosley on January 19, 1922, in Kern County, California. A child of the Great Depression, raised on the modest values of small-town America. Acting wasn't even on the horizon. His early life revolved around agriculture. After graduating from Bakersfield College, he pursued studies in animal husbandry, hoping for a quiet life working the land. But history had other plans. When World War II erupted, Robert traded fields for duty, enlisting in the U.S. Navy and serving as a radio operator in the Pacific. The war shaped him, instilling discipline and humility, qualities that would define not just the characters he played, but the man he became. It was during a brief leave in Hollywood in 1944 that fate stepped in. Discovered by the infamous talent agent Henry Wilson, known for creating stars and covering secrets, Robert's life changed overnight. Wilson saw the raw potential, the striking face, the heroic silhouette, and he renamed him Guy Madison, a name that sounded tailor-made for a movie marquee. His first appearance was modest, a minor, uncredited role in David O. Selznick's wartime drama Since You Went Away. But something about Madison's quiet strength on screen captured hearts. Audiences, still reeling from war, clung to his image. The gentle soldier, the moral anchor. Selznick knew he had found something special and quickly signed Madison to a studio contract. By the late 1940s, Guy Madison had become a rising star. Films like Till the End of Time, 1946, where he acted opposite Robert Mitchum, and Honeymoon, 1947, showcased his easy charisma and modest charm. While critics weren't always kind, often citing his lack of formal acting training, audiences saw something else: sincerity. But Madison's true moment of stardom came not on the silver screen, but through the new magic of television. In 1951, Madison became Wild Bill Hickok, the dashing, honorable frontier marshal, in a TV and radio series that would run for 7 years and reach millions. With his trusty sidekick Jingles, played by Andy Devine, he roamed the West, defending justice in towns big and small. Dressed in his signature cowboy gear, Madison became a pop culture icon. His image was everywhere: comic books, lunchboxes, even cereal boxes. He appeared at rodeos and parades, always flashing that signature smile, embodying the very spirit of American heroism. Children looked up to him, parents approved of him, Hollywood adored him. But few knew what Madison kept hidden behind that polished exterior. Throughout the 1950s and 60s, while continuing to appear in westerns like The Charge at Feather River, 1953, a film lauded for its pioneering use of 3D sound, Madison began to transition his career overseas. As the Western began to lose its dominance in American cinema, Madison found new life in European films, especially spaghetti westerns and war dramas produced in Italy. The budgets were smaller, the roles grittier, but Madison never phoned it in. His professionalism, humility, and work ethic earned him respect abroad, and kept his legacy alive long after many of his American contemporaries had faded from memory. And yet, even as his on-screen presence remained steady, his private life remained carefully curated and deeply guarded. In 1949, at the height of his fame, Guy Madison married Gail Russell, a captivating young actress known for her haunting performance in The Uninvited, 1944, and her vulnerable beauty in Angel and the Bad Man, 1947. On paper, it was a perfect match, a golden couple for a golden age. But behind closed doors, their marriage was troubled. Russell battled severe anxiety and alcoholism. The pressures of fame, combined with Madison's own secrets, made their union more about appearances than lasting partnership. Because Guy Madison, despite every magazine headline, was reportedly leading a double life. Those closest to Hollywood's inner circles knew the truth. Madison had romantic relationships with several closeted male actors, navigating a dangerous tightrope between genuine affection and professional survival. In an era when homosexuality could destroy a career overnight, Madison had to conceal the most intimate parts of himself. Discretion wasn't a choice, it was a necessity. Rumors whispered through the Hollywood hills and behind studio gates that Madison had dated other stars who were also part of the industry's hidden LGBTQ+ elite, but no tabloids dared print it. The studio system, with agents like Henry Wilson at the helm, had entire playbooks on how to stage heterosexual romances to keep the truth buried. For Madison, every public appearance, every posed photograph, every hand-in-hand walk with a female co-star was another layer of the mask. And still, through it all, he remained kind, gracious, professional, loved. By the 1970s, Madison had quietly stepped away from the camera. He made occasional appearances at film festivals and Western conventions, where aging fans and new generations would line up just to see the man who had once defined their childhood Saturdays. He always greeted them warmly, never revealing how much he had to sacrifice just to be remembered as a hero. In 1996, he was honored with a Golden Boot Award, recognizing his contribution to the Western genre, a belated nod to a career that had quietly shaped an entire era. Behind the legend of Wild Bill Hickok was a man who lived with contradictions, adored on screen, invisible off it, a cowboy icon who longed for a world where he could simply love who he loved without fear. And that perhaps is what makes Guy Madison's legacy so enduring. He wasn't just a symbol of American heroism. He was a man who carried courage in ways no script ever revealed. Behind the badge, the hidden heartbreak and private truth of Guy Madison. To millions of Americans, Guy Madison was the embodiment of quiet strength, the noble cowboy, the war hero, the ideal man. But off-screen, his life was far from the polished image studios worked so hard to protect. His first marriage, to actress Gail Russell, began with Hollywood sparkle, but soon descended into personal tragedy. Russell, delicate and deeply introverted, struggled with crippling social anxiety and a dependence on alcohol, demons that only deepened under the harsh glare of fame. Madison, ever the steady figure, tried to anchor her through the chaos. But as his own star rose, especially with his breakout role in The Adventures of Wild Bill Hickok, the emotional distance between them widened. Fame pulled him in one direction, while her battles dragged her into the shadows. In 1953, the couple separated. By October 1954, their marriage was over. Though their paths diverged, Madison never spoke ill of her. Those close to him said he remained quietly compassionate toward Russell's struggles, perhaps understanding them more than he let on. Barely a month after his divorce, Madison remarried. This time, it was Sheila Connolly, a fellow actor and rising star in 1950s westerns. The two exchanged vows in Juarez, Mexico, a place known not just for fast weddings, but for escaping the judgmental spotlight of Los Angeles. Their relationship, at first, felt like a breath of fresh air, grounded, domestic, and filled with a shared love for nature and family. They had 3 daughters together, Bridget, Erin, and Dolly. Madison, who had grown up with strong family values, took pride in fatherhood. He tried, earnestly, to juggle Hollywood and home. But the life of an actor is not one easily contained. Frequent travel, international filming, and long days on set slowly strained the marriage. By 1960, the emotional strain proved too much. They separated. Their divorce was finalized in 1963. Yet, in true Madison fashion, there was no scandal. No tabloid war. He maintained a respectful bond with Connolly and remained deeply involved in the lives of their daughters. A father first, even when the cameras stopped rolling. Then came Georgia Mal Scala, a luminous Italian-Irish actress with haunting eyes and a magnetic presence. Their relationship, though never formalized by marriage, was passionate, complex, and deeply emotional. Friends described their connection as turbulent but undeniable. 2 people drawn to each other by mutual understanding and shared wounds. Scala, like Gail Russell before her, struggled with depression and alcohol, afflictions that seemed to echo through Madison's life. But with Scala, the bond ran deep. When she died suddenly in 1972 under mysterious circumstances, the public was stunned. Yet one detail spoke volumes. She had named Guy Madison as the sole beneficiary of her share in the Screen Actors Pension Fund. It was a final, intimate gesture, one not born from obligation, but from enduring affection. As the golden age of Hollywood faded, Madison's spotlight dimmed, but he was far from done. In Italy, where his star remained bright, Madison had a son, Robert Madison. Born from another relationship, Robert would follow in his father's footsteps, carving out his own acting career in European cinema. Raised in Italy, Robert grew up on the sets of spaghetti westerns, watching his father work, learning the art of presence and restraint. Though an ocean separated them for parts of their lives, father and son shared a deep bond. Guy Madison offered more than just name recognition. He offered wisdom. He taught his son the harsh realities of the entertainment industry, the need for dignity in a world that rarely offered it back, and above all, the value of staying true to oneself. For decades, Madison had been the all-American icon, the strong, silent type who could command a room with a glance and win hearts with a smile. Women adored him, men respected him, and yet the truth behind that stoic expression was far more delicate, far more complicated, because Guy Madison had secrets, and in his final years, he chose not to hide them anymore. In a posthumously released memoir, drawn from private letters and interviews, Madison revealed the untold chapters of his life. Pages that had been carefully kept out of the spotlight now came to light, not in scandal, but in dignity. He wrote about the men he had loved, fellow actors, quiet figures, colleagues who, like him, lived in fear of discovery. In a time when being openly gay could destroy everything, Madison had lived under the weight of a double life. Studio contracts came with morality clauses. Tabloids thrived on ruin. A single whisper of homosexuality could mean the end of a career, or worse. So he smiled. He posed for publicity stills with actresses. He went on arranged dates. And at night, he retreated into a world where he could be himself, quietly, secretly, carefully. In his memoir, he didn't name names to shame. He did so to honor. These were not skeletons in his closet. They were lovers, friends, and equals. Men who had endured the same suffocating silence. Madison spoke of these relationships not with regret, but with reverence. They were part of his truth. A truth that, for decades, he had been forced to hide behind cowboy hats and studio gloss. Now, in the twilight of his life, and after, he let the truth ride freely. Guy Madison, a life lived between shadows and sunlight. In the private pages of his posthumously published memoir, Guy Madison gives voice to a truth long buried beneath Hollywood's glossy illusions. His reflections offer more than names and dates. They paint a portrait of longing, resilience, and the quiet courage it took to live authentically in a world that demanded masks. One of the most moving revelations is Madison's tender recollection of his relationship with Ramon Novarro, the silent film legend best remembered for Ben-Hur, A Tale of the Christ, 1925. Ramon was gentle, Madison wrote, spiritual, wiser than anyone gave him credit for. They would steal away to secluded corners of West Hollywood or retreat to Palm Springs under the guise of relaxation. But what they found there wasn't escape, it was peace. A fragile, fleeting peace neither man could claim under the weight of their public lives. Madison also writes with warmth about Tyrone Power, the dashing matinee idol whose bisexuality was long rumored but never confirmed during his lifetime. "We connected," Madison explained, "in the twilight of his stardom when the camera stopped rolling and the masks came off. In those rare, quiet moments, we were just two men trying to understand what love could be when the world refused to see it." His words are never sensational. Instead, they are filled with reverence and care, a tone that carries into his recollection of Anthony Perkins, the haunted star of Psycho. Madison describes their brief but emotionally charged connection. Tony was young and unsure, haunted, always looking over his shoulder, and for good reason. We shared a few passionate months, tangled in both excitement and anxiety. Even with someone who understood, he could never fully exhale. Perhaps most poignant of all is Madison's account of his relationship with Rock Hudson, the ultimate Hollywood golden boy whose public image hid a lifetime of private struggle. Rock had the smile of a golden boy, Madison writes, and the soul of a man who had to break himself into pieces to survive. Our time together was stolen, just weekends in Big Bear, or quiet dinners in his canyon hideaway. But even stolen moments can be timeless. Throughout these intimate confessions, Madison is careful to preserve the humanity of the men he loved. "We didn't date the way people think of dating now," he explains. "It was furtive, coded, cautious, but it was real. We laughed, we held each other. We watched the sunrise and spoke of the lives we wished we could live out in the open." His memoir doesn't dwell in bitterness. Yes, there is pain. Yes, there is longing. But there is also celebration of the quiet triumphs, the stolen glances, the hand held under the table at a restaurant in Beverly Hills. "We carved out happiness where we could," Madison writes. "In a world that tried to deny us love, we found it anyway." But the cost of that secrecy was steep. Guy Madison confronted the pressures of studio contracts, tabloid exposure, and the quest for authenticity while navigating his identity as an LGBTQ+ actor. His memoir became a testament to his truth, celebrating hidden stories in Hollywood. He found peace in retirement at his Morongo Valley ranch, cherishing simple joys. Madison passed away on February 6, 1996, leaving a legacy deeply rooted in integrity and quiet strength, honored by those who truly knew him.